To order. Madam Clerk, item number 1.
Appointment of Ruth Moore of 1380 Main Street, Brockton, Mass. 02302 to the Women's Commission for a 3-year term ending July 2025. Invited Ruth Moore.
Mrs. Moore, you look awfully mayoral today.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. You do have some appointments for boards and commissions before you tonight. Just like I've done in the past, we asked for letters of interest, we asked for resumes, and we actually did interviews of all the applicants that are going to be before you tonight, vetting out their skill sets and, more importantly, why they want to be on a board and commission and their interest level. So every applicant that's before you tonight, I wholeheartedly support, and I ask for your humble recommendations favorable. Thank you.
Ms. Moore, is Ms. Moore present, Mr. Mayor?
She is my
Vetting out their
constituent.
skill sets, and more importantly.
Councilman Castro.
Thank you. She is my constituent. She's a terrific lady. Can we maybe postpone the matter until the end of the night? To give her time to get here because she doesn't drive.
Okay. Councilors, are we all right with pushing this off to the end of the agenda?
Second.
All right, we'll move to the end of the agenda.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 2, appointment of Christina Jerome of 315 Sully Road, Brockton, Mass. 02302 to the License Commission for a 3-year term ending July 2025. Invited Christina Jerome.
Councilors, the clerk has gotten a communication from Ms. Jerome. She's unable to make it today due to a personal conflict. You can choose to pass this on to the full city council, possibly hear from her there, postpone, whatever the will of the council is. Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Chairman, I would humbly ask that you make a motion to postpone it so the party could come before you and answer any questions. License Commission, as you know, is extremely important. In light of marijuana, the License Commission members have not just liquor and alcohol, but also the marijuana. So I would humbly ask that you postpone it so that person could appear in person.
Motion to postpone. Second.
Motion to postpone is properly made and seconded. All in favor of postponing? All opposed? The item is postponed.
Agenda item number 3, appointment of Adwami Olawatuaya of 123 Country Club Lane, Brockton, Mass. 02301 to the Women's Commission for a 3-year term ending July 2025. Invited Adewumi Olawatuya. I apologize if I'm pronouncing your name incorrectly. If you'd like to state your name.
No problem, Madam Clerk. Good evening.
Do you have anything you'd like to say to the councilors?
I would, first of all, like to say a big thank you for allowing me to come here to this sacred hall. I migrated to the United States in 2000 as a student. And of the 22 years, I've spent 15 years in Brockton, built a home, raised children, with business out of town, but looking for an opportunity to give back to a community that has been so kind to me. I would love to join the Women's Commission because I believe women are the bedrock of society. I also believe that Brockton is at a very critical stage right now with all the development going on. And it will be nice to have our women play crucial roles in various aspects of the city's development, and also ensure that no lady in whatever socioeconomic group is left behind in the new Brockton that we're building. And so I'm here to work alongside with Mr. Mayor and yourselves, our revered councilors, to continue to push the City of Champion narrative. Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion to recommend favorably back to the full city council.
Second.
Was that something on the motion, Councilor?
I was just going to say that Toya is my constituent. I think we should be honored to have her as a member of the Women's Commission. I wholeheartedly recommend it.
Thank you, Councilor. On the motion, Councilor D'Agostino.
I also just wanted to chime in on this. So I've known Toyin, God, what's it been, 10, 12 years, something like that. And I'm really happy to be voting in favor of your appointment tonight. You're going to be a great addition. I'm glad to see you getting involved in our community. And I think you're going to be a wonderful addition to the Women's Commission. So thank you for your willingness to serve.
Thank you. And thank you, Councilor Susan.
That's 2 so far. Motion's been properly made and seconded. All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Agenda item number 4, appointment of Lawrence Jazewski of 36 Sophia Avenue, Brockton, Mass. 02301 to the Elections Commission for a 4-year term ending July 2026. Invited Lawrence Jazewski.
Good evening.
Good evening, councilors. I started my career back in the 70s when I was in college, and Councilor Fowler knows that at that particular time, when you had to register to vote, you had to sign an affidavit, and you had to read portions of the Constitution out in public. And if you read that correctly, you were in, like Flynn, and you had to sign with the not a ballpoint pen, but real ink on the ledgers. And then we graduated to the punch card system, and that was a fiasco with the Chads. If you remember the recount, to Stadensky, McCavitt, Mayor Crosby. In fact, they had the national news come down because for the first time in the city, in America, they had 3 mayors. You know, it kept going back and forth, 1 vote, 23 votes. And it's very tough in the recount, which I was involved in. You're trying to read the cards and the viewer there. Did that person actually make an indentation? Was it a Chad hanging? That's in Florida, so they finally threw that out, thank God. And then we went into the optic sim, which is much better now, but the AccuVote that you can just put the, mark the ballots, put them in. There's no discrepancies, very few at a time, so.
Thank you. Councilor Azak.
Thank you. Mr. Jazewski is a Ward 7 resident, so I would like to thank him for his service and for serving the city of Brockton. And with that, I'd like to recommend this favorably back to the full city council.
Second.
Motion is properly made and seconded. On the motion, Councilor Farwell.
Just on the motion, I have known Larry for quite some time. I always thought he was a relatively sane person, but with all of the rhetoric that goes on about elections in this country, I'm a little bit worried about you, but I think you'll make it through because we have an excellent elections office, and we've always had very good oversight of elections here. So factor out all of the other nonsense that you hear, and
Absolutely.
I'm sure we'll be fine. So I certainly look forward to a favorable recommendation. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor. Motion's been properly made and seconded. All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you, councilors.
Thank you.
Good night.
Agenda item number 5, appointment of Sandra Sharton of 225 Northern Ave, Boston, Mass. 02210 to the position of Director of Human Resources for a 3-year term ending in July 2025. Invited Sandra Sharton.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, it's always exciting to have department heads come before you. And tonight, I'm really proud that Sandy Charton is before you as, hopefully, if you confirm, the permanent Human Resources Director. Ms. Charton came to the city of Brockton as a consultant. As you know, the HR position is pivotal as we move forward to try to attract the best and the brightest working here in the city of Brockton. Her background and resume, I know you've all vetted it out. She's an attorney by trade, and she's been in the HR industry for a very long time. She hit the ground running here in the city of Brockton, really enveloped herself working with all the department heads and working with all the city employees, working at the table when we're doing collective bargaining, and really explaining human resources processes. Of course, when Sandra Knight had moved on, Sandra had started working on some mandatory training sessions that Sandy has replicated and enhanced for all the departments here in the city of Brockton to better customer services, to better the idea and notion of unconscious bias, microaggression, all the things that human resources needs to do to run a business. And as I've said this many times before, Brockton is a business. and it's over a $500 million business. So I humbly ask for your support. Sandy's here tonight to answer any questions, but again, she is someone that, in my humble opinion, is going to do an exceptional job as human resources for the city of Brockton. She's already created a synergy with Dr. Kathy Moran on the school side, Director of Human Resources on the school side. And so respectfully, again, I ask for your support tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank
Ms.
you.
Chart, hello.
Thank you, thank you.
Anything you want to say to the councilors?
Just that, as I said when I came before the council for the budget hearing, I came here, I believe, as an interim and was totally prepared to be here as an interim, help the city find someone else, and then move on. And I fell in love with the city. That's what I said during my interview. I fell in love with the diversity, how dynamic it is, how many opportunities there are. So I have tried to reach out to each of you to tell you I'm grateful for the opportunity to come before you. Welcome any questions now or otherwise. And I believe I just humbly also ask for your support. Thank you.
All right. Councilors, questions for the director. Councilor Farwell.
Mr. Chairman, no question. I just hope everyone took time to read Ms. Chatton's resume. Graduate of Brandeis University, graduate of Boston University School of Law. I think the depth of her experience speaks for itself. But that wasn't enough. As many of you know, I have a lot of people in City Hall, some of whom served with me years ago, and the things that I heard about this candidate are thorough, fair, professional, courteous, approachable. So a resume is one thing, but the personal qualities which I think she brings to this position for all people from every walk of life, whoever works here, whether they're a new employee or they've been here for years, I think this speaks so well of the city to find a candidate at this caliber. So I look forward to supporting her, and I think, frankly, we are very, very lucky. When you look at this resume, to have someone like this willing to tackle the issues that present themselves in a community like the city of Brockton. So I certainly welcome you personally and professionally.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
Councilor Castro.
Thank you. Good evening, Ms. Chardon. Good to see you. I just have two comments. Yes, your resume is terrific, but more than that, you've been very responsive to my calls and to my emails, and that's wonderful. It's a pleasure working with you, and I do support your appointment. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilors, anything else for the director?
Motion to recommend favorably back to the full city council.
Second.
Motion has been properly made and seconded. All in favor? All opposed? The motion passes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Director.
Thank you so much.
Agenda item 6, that the city council authorizes the acceptance and expenditure of the total grant funds in the amount of $50,000 from Massachusetts Department of Transportation, Mass DOT, FY23 Shared Streets and Spaces Program Grant, to the Department of Public Works, FY23 Shared Streets and Spaces Program Grant Fund. These grant funds will be used for the Department of Public Works to purchase snowplows. Invited, Patrick Hill, DPW Commissioner, Troy Clarkson, Chief Financial Officer.
Mr. Commissioner.
Councilors, so this is a grant that we applied for in April, the Mass DOT Shared Streets and Spaces Grant. It's to purchase sidewalk clearing and equipment to accommodate pedestrian traffic. The award was up to $50,000, and we received the full award.
Any questions for the commissioner, councilors? Councilor Farwell.
Sidewalk plows, Commissioner, or regular?
Yes, sidewalk plows.
Sidewalk. So,
Yep.
For $50,000, we're going to put some more local money with it. I would think they're fairly expensive.
The money that we're going to be using from this grant, along with probably $15,000 or $16,000, will replace one of the sidewalk plows that's already in the fleet. So we'll retire one of the old ones and put a new one into service.
Excellent. All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor.
Motion to recommend favorably back to the full city council.
Second.
Motion has been properly made and seconded. All in favor? All opposed? The motion passes.
Thank you, councilors.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner.
Agenda item number 7, that the city council authorizes the acceptance and expenditure of the total grant funds in the amount of $5,000. Plymouth County District Attorney's Office FY23 Drug Prevention Education and Awareness Program Grant. 2, the Brockton Police Department FY23 Drug Preventive Education and Awareness Program Grant. These grant funds will be used by the Brockton Police Department for the care and training of Brockton Police Department's Comfort K-9 Bonnie, who provides emotional support for the well-being of drug-endangered children, students with adverse childhood experiences, ACES, and others that require that service. Invited Brenda Perez, Police Chief, Brockton Police Department, and Steve Williamson, Captain, Brockton Police Department.
Good evening, Chief.
Good evening, councilors.
Good evening.
Evening.
Anything you want to start off with, or?
So this grant is basically for additional training for our comfort dog, Bonnie. I'm sure some of you have seen her around with the kids and interacting with our community. So this is for training and for her upkeep, vet bills, food. The DA's office has awarded us this grant for her care.
Councilors?
Motion to recommend favorably back to the full city council.
Second.
On the motion,
Motion, Councilor.
thank you. And all I was going to say, good evening, Chief Perez, is that Bonnie coincidentally shares a trainer with my puppy, and she's a terrific dog, and I know she's making a difference. Thank you. This is a great idea. Thank you.
And she's actually been in council chambers.
Yes, she has.
Motion's been properly made and seconded. All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Chief.
Agenda item number 8, ordered that the city council
You're not going too far, Chief. I didn't realize
authorizes the acceptance and expenditure of the total grant funds in the amount of $96,500 from the Executive Office of Health and Human Services, Department of Mental Health, FY23 Massachusetts Jail Arrest Diversion Grant Program. 2, the City of Brockton Police Department, FY23 Massachusetts Jail Arrest Diversion Grant Program. These grant funds will be used to pay for crisis intervention team training and the mental health first aid training for Brockton police officers. There is no match requirement. Invited, Brenda Perez, Police Chief, Brockton Police Department, Steve Williamson, Captain, Brockton Police Department, and Troy Clarkson, Chief Financial Officer.
Good evening, Chief.
Good evening. So this grant here is trains our officers in community crisis intervention to become a community crisis intervention team member. And we want to get to that 100% training, and we've been doing that. This is going to be in addition to that. And what happens is that our licensed clinician and our CCIT team member go out and visit people that present, residents that present with mental or behavioral issues, and also, with substance abuse issues, and see if they can assist in any way. So this has been going on for a while, and we hope to continue training more officers to get to that 100% mark.
Councilor Azak.
Thank you. Good evening, Chief.
Good evening.
So a couple of questions. Is there a match, or is this a no match grant, which is great? The other question I had, and this just coincidentally, last week I received a call from a constituent who has an adult child who has mental health issues. And would this is there any way to, when the police department receives a call that has a mental health, that's mental health related, is there any way to send someone out with the police officers to deal with the situation?
That's a long-term project that we're looking at. Right now, we have scheduled shifts that we go out on and we follow up on. As far as live responses, that's something that we're looking to work towards as a goal.
Okay, I know there's a need for it, and I think it would be beneficial. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other councilors?
Motion to recommend favorably back to the full city council.
Second.
Motion has been properly made and seconded. All in favor? All opposed? The motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Agenda item 9, resolve to invite Chief Brenda Perez of the Brockton Police Department and Chief Brian Nadelli of the Brockton Fire Department and/or their designees to appear before the Finance Committee of the Brockton City Council to discuss the work of the Fireworks Joint Task Force, including vote limitations, number of calls received by its hotline, number of visits to city properties, amount of fireworks confiscated, their opinions of the effectiveness of the task force, reflect on what has been learned and what will be implemented in the future. Invited Brenda Perez, Police Chief, Brockton Police Department, and Brian Nadelli, Fire Chief, Brockton Fire Department.
Chief, how are you?
Good morning, good morning, good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, councilors.
24-hour shifts, they're tough.
Not anymore, I know, yeah. If I could just start off, and obviously my colleagues are here with me, just a couple of things just to note as a background for anyone watching or anyone who's not maybe as in tune to what's gone on with this fireworks task force as the rest of us may be. Back on May 27th of 22, Mayor Sullivan wanted to put together a task force to deal with the ongoing fireworks problems we've had here in the city of Brockton throughout the summers. The purpose of that was to have the Brockton Police Department, Brockton Fire Department work together to the common goal of preventing this, educating, making sure people understood the dangers, making sure people knew that they were illegal to operate without being a licensed fireworks individual. So those went on throughout the summer. To this point, we've visited 400 residents, over 500 calls to the tip line, and we've confiscated, the police along with us have confiscated up to $12,000 worth of fireworks. In my humble opinion of what we saw the year prior, and I'm sure that Chief Perez and Sergeant Cruikshank can speak to this as well, I think it's been pretty much a resounding success. We have not had one fire due to fireworks since this task force was put back into place at the end of May, although last year, that was not the case. We did have a couple. I think this is, in our opinion, has worked very well, the collaboration between the two departments to get this work done. I don't know if you guys have anything else.
Chief, Sergeant, all right.
Good evening, councilors. I just wanted to say, since 2020, we had a 78 reduction in fireworks, and I've said this before in the Public Safety Subcommittee meeting. So overall, our fireworks calls for service have been down. What I am going to do is I'm introducing here Sergeant Cruikshank. He's part of our Brockton Police Fire Prevention Unit, and he's going to go through basically some of the stuff that they've gone and done. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Even Sergeant.
Good evening, council members. My name is Sergeant Edward Cruikshank. I'm head of the Joint Task Force with the Fire Department, and Deputy Williams is on the fire side. So just to run down the numbers, as you asked, the hotline number, we received over 500 calls. There was an issue with the hotline numbers that we didn't really explain to the public. It's a tip line, so we did get active fireworks calls during that time, which we're listening to after the fact. So I would make it clear that it's a tip line only, not a hotline number. We did go to over 400 residents in 6 weeks, with 134 residents just on the 4th of July alone. We did confiscate $12,000 worth of fireworks, and again, it was very successful. I feel in comparison to previous years. We didn't have the task force last year. We did have a task force with the Mass State Police, the Fire Department, and the police, but this year was just the Brockton Fire, Brockton Police. So I do have some things I'd like to go over as far as what I'm looking for next year, if you're willing to hear that.
Yes.
Okay. I think that we need more proactive policing. We definitely have problem addresses that we'd like to go out there well before the 4th of July and just explain to them that charges will be filed. I'm more of education and just letting people know, giving them the benefit of the doubt rather than charging people. So, however, if it does continue, then we will issue court complaints and the like. Let me see. Advertising of fireworks. We have them in Massachusetts. Unfortunately, we had them right outside of Brockton Police Department, giant billboard. I would love to have an ordinance where we can't have that type of advertising, not in Brockton. We'd like to develop a, let me see, I'm sorry. Okay, we'd like to develop an action plan to deter annual fireworks programs, like I explained, going door to door with the addresses that we had previously. Again, reaching out to the MBTA, we had issues there, Campello Station with fireworks. So we could reach out to them and see if they could police their properties as well, and then work towards more public involvement. That's all I have. Any questions?
Thank you. So we've got 3 counselors lined up right now. Counselor Nicastro, you're the sponsor on this?
Yes.
You'd like to go first?
Yes, thank you. Good evening. Thank you for being here.
Good evening.
I'm interested to know, do you feel this was a success? You do, I believe. And don't you feel that working together was the right thing? Because isn't it true that police officers can't confiscate fireworks?
We can.
You can?
It's non-arrestable, but it's mandated that we confiscate.
Right.
So that is what we do.
Right, but don't you need to be there together, police and fire, to completely deal with this?
It absolutely helps. Both sides have something to offer. So, you know, I'm also part of the fire investigation unit. So we work with a red and blue team. So it's fire department and police go out for cause and origin on fires. We do the same thing with the fireworks task force. We work together for the common goal of reducing fireworks. You know, the damages, personal injury and property damage.
Were we the only community, I'm thinking gateway communities especially, in the state to do this past 4th of July, to your knowledge?
As far as a task force, I'm not too sure. I know that it was on the forefront of other city departments. I'm sorry, go ahead.
As far as other communities, in speaking to a lot of the fire chiefs, I know for a fact they kind of were talking to me about how we went about it, and I went on and on about the collaboration between both red and blue to make sure this worked. Lynn, which is a very similar city to Brockton, size-wise, population, public safety-wise, they were having a major problem in the beginning of May, and it didn't really cease too much. So when you look at both communities, I think you saw how our task force worked together versus what they, and I don't want to say they didn't get their feet off the ground. I think next year they're looking to put something into place like we had. So that's from the fire side personally. I did speak to a lot of chiefs, and some of communities of our size dealt with a lot of the same problems. But I think, and when you ask about a success, I really do feel just from monitoring and watching and no fires from fireworks made a big difference. And I think a lot of it, the sergeant could correct me if I'm wrong, because he was boots on the ground with this, people would say, oh, you're from the task force. So people knew about it. The mayor's office constantly blasted this out through social media. That alone, the preemptiveness and the education made a big difference between our 2 agencies. So.
And will the task force ride again over Labor Day weekend?
We could make that happen, Counselor, absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think one of the things we've run into is we really haven't run into a lot of problems. So it's been kind of, we got people out there doing a job that really wasn't warranted for a while there, because once we got past the 4th of July, things started to decline for us. So it was kind of, we were, you know, putting people out there for, interrupting their Saturdays and Sundays with our personnel when there really didn't seem to be much of a problem. But we can definitely, Chief Perez and I can work something out with that, absolutely.
I think it's fair to say no one wants to spoil a resident's fun. It's just that so many of our neighborhoods are densely populated, and there's so much opportunity for a fire, a house, a person being harmed. I applaud what you did, because I know in Ward 4 it made a difference. I understand that on July 4th, the task force was overwhelmed with calls. It was too much. So maybe you think about having a few on the road for this high use holiday. Again, to protect the city, to protect our residents.
Absolutely, that is something we'll definitely address. And like I said, I'd like to get ahead of it. So we do have some problem addresses that, we're aware of now. Just For instance, Tremont Street spent $50,000 on fireworks, 50,000. So we're definitely getting ahead of that.
It's
for
supposed to
next year.
be a better-looking display than what you see in some stadiums at different communities. It's supposed to be really amazing. And look at Tremont Street and how close together the houses are. It's just frightening.
Right?
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Thompson, followed by Counselor Azak.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good evening, Sergeant, Chief Perez, and Chief Nardelli. Thank you for this task force. Sitting on the Public Safety Committee, we did have conversations regarding the makeup of the task force and what the responsibilities were. I could see that the word was out that Brockton was going to deal with the fireworks issue, and from what you guys stated, it sounded like a success. So I just had a couple quick questions. Chief Nardelli, you stated that the task force made contact with about 400 residents. So what would bring you to a residence, and what was the job when you were at that residence?
So Sergeant Cruikshank was out, and he might be able to even answer that question better. But a lot of times, the tip line is a tip line, like we said. But a lot of times, it'd come in through the general business line, if I'm not mistaken. So that's how that would then be radioed. We'd be working together in a car, one of our personnel and police, and they would be dealing with that throughout the evening. So that's how they got the calls.
Okay, so essentially, you appeared at a residence because of a tip. And then if maybe, Sergeant, you could fill in, since you are boots on the ground. When you came to a residence, what happened? What did you do?
Many times. So that was part of it also, where we drove around for 6 weeks. You know, part of the task force is education and, you know, to deter fireworks. So we would find or locate where they're setting them off, knock, announce our presence, and ask, you know, if they had anything else that we had to confiscate that. We really didn't have any issues with that once we explained it to them, that, you know, it's illegal in Massachusetts. And, you know, that was basically it. It's education's key. I think where we had 3 channels pick us up, 4, 5, and 25, you know, and that was played continuously. I think that helped. Media blitz by the mayor absolutely helped. So, you know, that's basically what we did, is just, you know, we locate the fireworks, so we get calls for service to go there and talk to people, so.
Okay, so a neighbor saw fireworks coming from a certain household, call you guys appear, knock on the door. If you have any more, please turn them over, essentially.
And there was one address where I literally took well over $3,000 worth of fireworks, and they were like nearly in tears, but they gladly gave it up because they know it's illegal.
Understood. And you said no, just curiously, no arrests essentially resulted from any confiscation, correct?
That's correct. We can arrest, we can charge, but we didn't do that in this case. In any case.
Do we have any avenue for a civil fine, or is this only a criminal offense?
Yep, the fire department can issue like a $100 citation for illegal use of fireworks and such.
Chief, did we issue any? No, just curious.
We did not. I think that's something we'll obviously move forward with moving forward. We didn't really get too in depth. I think the public safety component was the beginning. Again, I think we talked about these calls and these numbers. I think without that preventative maintenance, I hate to say, for lack of a better term, to start out with, I think that made a huge difference, because we would have I think we would have fielded a lot more calls than we even did with us. I think, and again, to the preventativeness of it, I think, you know, you look at a lot of these, and not to get off topic, but a lot of these illegal parties that pay for parties type things that have been out there. So many of those have been squashed because of Deputy Chief Williams with the police, with working with, just tracking them down during the week, finding out what's going on and putting a halt to them ahead of time. So I think, again, the media component of it, people knowing that they are out there looking for this stuff, they're going to confiscate it. It's not legal, and that helped a lot.
And just one last question. So, Chief, you said there were no fires resulting from 4th of July. Do we know if there were any injuries? Do we know if anybody had to show up to an emergency room over the 4th of July for firework-related injuries?
So, the only ones I can talk about are the ones, obviously, that we were involved with. If they went to the emergency room, it's hard for us to track that. Okay. We did have under 100 fireworks injuries that we potentially transported. A lot of times people wouldn't tell us what they were. A lot of times it was after the fact. We were able to query. A lot of times the way we can look it up in our system doesn't really give us, it comes in as trauma, burn. We kind of can piece it together. So it's nothing that we can track definitively, but yes, were there some injuries? Absolutely, there were some injuries, but they were taken care of, obviously, by us and transported.
Do you know if any of those were catastrophic?
Nothing life-threatening,
okay.
no.
All right, great. Well, again, this sounds like it was a overall success. We appreciate your efforts on this matter, and I look forward to discussing it again next year. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Azak, followed by Counselor Farwell.
Thank you. Good evening, Chiefs and Sergeant Cruikshank. This was exciting when I first heard about it, and now it's really great to have you guys before us to give us more information on how it works. So I think this is really important. I did note it. I live in the center of the city. I guess I can say that, Prospect Street, and I did notice a decline in from the past years. There were less fireworks. I know I have a few neighbors that do set them off, so thank you for your efforts. I was very happy to hear, Sergeant, that you mentioned the ordinance for the billboards for advertising, that's something we really should do and start working on it early. Was there anything else that came up that you felt we could do better for next year besides, I mean, that's great because everybody was complaining. We have this task force, they're illegal, and there's right next to the police station, a big billboard with the advertising. So what else was there?
Again, I think the media blitz that we did with the news stations, with the social media as well, they did an excellent job. If we could set in place that ordinance would be wonderful. And then, with the chief's blessing, if anybody wanted to do a ride along with us to see what we do, I'd welcome that if you guys were willing to do that. So I think that was it.
Okay, no, that would be great. So you didn't feel anybody else needed to be a part of this task? I think it's great, the two departments. I think that was a perfect collaboration, but is there anybody else that you feel there would be a need? If, say, we were to implement some sort of a fee, do we need to get another department in City Hall? Do we need to get anybody else involved, or is it just police and fire is enough?
I wouldn't be able to answer that question. I'd have to defer to the chiefs.
I mean, I think, and I don't want to speak for Chief Perez, but I think it worked very well the way it worked. I think one of the things that was, and Sergeant Cruikshank's spoken to it, Department of Fire Services ran a program. He's referred to it a couple of times, the Red and Blue program, and I think I actually spoke about it a couple of times when I've been here. What happened was, in each community, you were able to send X amount of police officers with X amount of firefighters to become investigators. So what this allows us, and what this allows us is to be able to, when we're investigating a fire, they work with us in investigation, but they also assist us with any arrests or anything. So it's kind of one-stop shopping. The Department of Fire Services in the Commonwealth has actually kind of led the charge nationwide with this, and it's worked out well. What ended up happening was that worked out perfectly for a perfect union between the officers that were doing that on the Red and Blue to now work with this task force. And they work well together because they work together all the time. So it does work well. I can honestly say, and I think, I hate to say a feather in our bonnet, but something that is very nice to see with the city of Brockton is when I receive calls from other fire chiefs around the Commonwealth saying, hey, we saw this, how are you doing this? That's big for Brockton. That's real pride in our city and what the mayor's trying to do, what you're trying to do here as the council, and what we're trying to do in our departments. So I think just that alone, really, we want to be the leaders, in anything we can be the leaders in, and especially if it's something like this that's going to keep people safe. So I think that, a couple of the chiefs have said, once the summer's over, I want to talk to you about how you guys put this together. So that right there is a big component as is. So that working relationship, I would say, and I think Chief Perez would agree, that they work well together all the time with the investigation component. I think they worked well together this time.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much. Once again, this is really important, and this is good news that we have data. And just looking forward to see where we go with this next year. So, and we'll work on that ordinance. That's what we're here for. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. And I do have to echo the ride along. I know I went on one. I believe Counselor D'Agostino went on one. They are terrific, very informational as well. Really gives you a better understanding for us. Counselor Farwell, followed by Counselor D'Agostino.
Good evening, both chiefs and sergeant. clearly it was better this year. And as a matter of fact, Chief Perez and I had a conversation about that. Having said that, and that not to diminish anything that the task force accomplished, it's got to go to the next level. And I'll tell you why. It is heartbreaking to get a text message or an email or see on social media, my father or mother is terminally ill, they can't sleep, it's 2 o'clock in the morning and there are fireworks going off. My dog is out of control because they can't take the noise. Veterans have post-traumatic stress syndrome, and when they hear a loud noise and they don't know where it's coming from, we all know that can trigger any number of things. I don't expect a response, but the fine under state law is $100 for mere possession. That is absurd. Sergeant, if you and Chief Williams had to go to court and testify, it would cost 10 times that between your costs and the DA's office just to prosecute a case like that. And I would hope maybe the Mass Fire Chiefs Association and Police Chiefs Association would take a look at that. And I do think on a second offense, on the same day, you should have the right of arrest. Which leads me to a final comment, and that is, I would assume we have the addresses where we responded this year, so that if you have the same problem next year, and you pull up in the log or in the computer that we were there last year for the same problem, I hope that will trigger an entirely different type of enforcement, summons into court, whatever the appropriate action might be, because people watching this are going to be pleased that we did better, but I can tell you there are a lot of people that are going to be watching saying, it really didn't help me in my neighborhood because I was up until 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning with fireworks going off and it seemed relentless. So again, I'm not trying to throw shade at what you did, but it's really got to go up to the next level and then keep escalating until I really hope we have it down to a minimum. And I like what was done, but I guess what I'm arguing for is better state law and a much greater level of proactive and immediate response when we get these calls.
Absolutely. Thank you for your input. And I think you're spot on many of those issues. They will be addressed next year. And again, when we go out, I would like to get ahead of it and just let them know that, listen, we were here last year. We were lenient. We were trying to educate. But now unfortunately, we're going to have to charge. And that's just the way it's going to be. So.
And by the way, let me put it on the record, because I've been where you are. I know it's tough to go to a house where they're about as happy to see you as a skunk at a lawn party. And they don't want you there. And they're probably going to tell you, get off my property. And you're not exactly, shall we say, greeted with open arms and how can we cooperate. So it is stressful to respond to these calls, but I really think it has to be done because it is a quality of life issue, particularly for people who are elderly, sick, and God forbid, terminally ill. So, but thanks to all three of you for all that you did, and I'm sure we'll help you out next year.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor D'Agostino.
I'll try and be quick. I know every politician with a microphone says that. I'm kidding. Anyway, yeah, I just wanted to first say that I noticed a big difference this year. I mean, I wasn't the counselor in 20 and 21, but just from what I heard going on, it was pretty quiet this year. So I think the campaign to let people know that we were on top of it, you guys were paying attention, you were on top of it, I think was effective. And you mentioned the education piece, and I think that's really important. Chief Nardelli, you talked about some of the parties, the promoter parties, and, it just made me think of this one particular street that was having an issue, and Chief Williams had Deputy Chief Williams had a conversation with them, and this is where I think, again, the education piece came in, but also the address from prior calls was able to, hey, you know what? By the way, we've seen this address before, and if it keeps up, and I have to tell you from what I'm hearing, that particular street is silent now, whereas there was an ongoing issue over several years in that area. So I think, again, going to the level of, okay, now we're educating you as to the consequences. If we have to keep addressing this with you, yeah, there's going to be some financial impacts, some fines, and other actions, you know, I think certainly I saw it be effective in this particular case that comes to mind. And finally, and this is just more of my own opinion, it's great for us to do our own ordinance, and I'll certainly be happy to support that, but at the same time, it just seems like we should talk to our state delegation, because it is a state law banning the sale of fireworks in Massachusetts, so it would just seem appropriate for the state to step in and ban the advertisement of fireworks in Massachusetts, because so many communities are struggling with this. But anyway, so that's just my 2 cents, and again, I just want to thank you and all the officers involved, because at least from my own experience of what I've seen, it was certainly effective, and you know, this summer has been much quieter, you know, from that perspective. So, job well done and much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Anyone else?
Motion to recommend favorably back to the full city council.
Second.
Motion has been properly made and seconded by Counselor Azak. Oh, seconded by Counselor Castro. I got there. All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Sergeant. Thank you, Chiefs.
Thank you.
Good night.
Agenda item number 10, resolved to have representatives of the Greater Brockton Minority Business Association, GBMBA, appear before the Brockton City Council to help bring awareness to their efforts to assist the minority business community in the city. Yves Kasjust, Chairman, Jamie Hodges, Secretary, Maria Montero, VP, and Angel Hinestroza, Treasurer.
Mr. Chairman, the floor is yours. Come on up. Counselor Azak, are you going to kick us off?
Yes, thank you. So I presented this resolve because this is a fairly new association that's been put together, and it's there is a need in our community for support for minority businesses. So I was very excited to see that this organization has come together, and that's why we've invited them here this evening. Just to give us, it's really just informational, just to share some of the information of what they're doing and what their plans are. And thank you so much all for being here, and thank you, Mr. Kajust.
Merci, Conseiller Isaac. Council President Lally, Council members, my name is Yves Kajust, resident of Brockton since 1989. I would say I came here when Mr. Carl DiPitao was the mayor. I am the editor of InfoHaiti.net. To my knowledge, it's the oldest news website, online news website for Haitian. I'm also the co-producer and co-owner of MCTV, which is Multicultural Television Network located in Randolph. I am honored to serve as, I won't say the president, I don't like this fancy word, I'm the chair of the Greater Brockton Minority Business Association. On behalf of our association, thank you, council members, for approving the request of Councillor Isaac to provide us with this excellent opportunity to appear before your assembly to introduce you and tell you about the GBMBA. I'm here tonight with the Vice President, Mrs. Maria Montero, owner of GG Beauty Salon on Main Street in Brockton, and Miss Jamie Hodges, Secretary of our association. I would like to acknowledge the presence of Pascal Sincere. She's one of the three, what we call navigators. They are the one who basically doing the job, going on the street, calling, small business owner on, to be part of the association. Our association was born during the most serious health and economic crisis in our country. To tell you more about GBMBA mission and aspiration, I invite to the podium our secretary, Jamie.
Good evening, Ms. Hodges. Surprise.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, and members of, I'll move this closer, members of City Council. My name is Jamie Hodges, and I'm the clerk on the Greater Brockton Minority Business Association. So the Brockton Minority Business Association was started to assist small minority-owned businesses in the Brockton area. Last year, the Cape Verdean Association of Brockton wrote a grant to the Small Business Association, and it was a very competitive grant. In total, there were about 700 applicants nationwide, and out of those 700, they were selected out of as one of the individuals who, well, one of the groups that would receive the grant. The purpose of this grant is to become a community navigator for small businesses and help them navigate the process of their small business. If you don't know, Brockton is one of the only majority minority cities in New England. This association was created to work alongside other business entities in the city, such as the Chamber of Commerce, Brockton Redevelopment Authority, Old Colony Planning Council, and a variety of other organizations. But most importantly, to gather the businesses that felt as though they were left out and that, or they had a language barrier or lack of understanding, and helping them navigate through the business process. Since November, we have been organizing the businesses and reaching out to all the businesses in Brockton about this new association, and today we have over 130 different businesses affiliated with this group. We have been legalized with the Secretary of State FID number, and we are doing what is required by the SBA for this grant process. As the chairman said, the board is Eves, which is the chairman, Maria Montero is the vice president, I'm the clerk's secretary, and we have Angel, who is the treasurer. There are many different partners that we partner with in the community. That help us, and we are able to help them as well. We were able to have 3 advocates to assist small businesses who have language barriers. We have a Haitian community navigator, a Cape Verdean community navigator, and a Hispanic community navigator. The purpose of this navigator group is to navigate those small businesses to the appropriate business partners. This is a major accomplishment in the community. This association is not designed in any way to compete with any other association. It is designed to be an aid to other organizations. So thank you for your time. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie. I have some good news to announce, tonight. Starting this academic year, 2022-2023, our association will offer 3 scholarships to students from minority group who are going to pursue university studies in business and finance. The amount will be announced soon, probably after a meeting with the school, not the school committee, the Brockton superintendent. Our association also intends to contribute to civic life of the city and our region by encouraging our members, their families, and their friends to exercise their right to vote. With this in mind, we organized last month at Arnon School a conversation with candidates for the position of state rep and state senate. We intend to organize more before the general election next November. Let me spend a few minutes on the challenges facing our small business association. First, many of us are not yet, I would say, ready for the sudden transformation of our economy that has been taking place over the past 20 years. From now on, we must not only face competition in our own respective sector, but we have also to transform and evolve our way of promoting, collecting money, and even interacting with customers. Basically, we as small business, not only we have to compete, but we have also to compute by using computer in everything. Thanks to the help received from different organizations, as mentioned by Jamie, organizations like the BRA, the Brockton Redevelopment Authority, Brockton Neighborhood Works, most of our members were able to receive some technical assistance. However, as I mentioned yesterday at our monthly association meeting, we need to go beyond the traditional way of doing business. The technical assistance that the association receives is really excellent, but many of our members do not have access to it because English is not their primary language. Another challenge our small businesses are facing is access to capital grant. During the COVID crisis, quite significant funds were released by the state or the federal government to help small businesses. Unfortunately, for various reasons, many small businesses were not being able to access the funding for a variety of reasons. Many of their applications were simply rejected. Others have been able to benefit from it, but with great difficulty. We are inviting now to the podium our friend, Maria Montero, to share her experience during the COVID crisis.
Good evening, Chambers. Good evening, the council. My name is Maria Montero. For many of you must know me in the city as a Gigi. And I'm a business owner in Brockton of Gigi's Hair Salon, which is located 821 North Main Street in Brockton. Been established over there for 17 years. And humbling the city, and Brockton is the place what attract me within 25 years now in the city. This is my home. So I have the business there, and my experience in what being a small business owner, and I have 8 full-time employees and 1 part-time, including myself. And come through this pandemic, the COVID, which, drag everybody down as a businesses. I remember the day when I received a letter from the Brockton city say that we need to shut down the business. And I had to send home my employees, myself. But before that, because the virus and everything, we already get the shutdown. It was very difficult. But thank God, through the SBA and the PPP, sitting at home when I received phone call for a great friend, which is a city council, Mrs. Moises Rodriguez, and I find out through Kevin Association, where they are doing, all this application, how can help some of the businesses while we stay home closed, so I can help my employees. I was able to apply for the PPP loan, and I was luckily, great to receive it. And my employees was glad to be at home for those past closing 4 months out of business to support. Through that, Moises was always talking about Kaverian Association. So Kaverian Association, and thank you, Councilor Moises Rodriguez. Also, I was afraid many times he stepped to my street and said, Gigi, I have some card to help those people who are here in the city illegally can get it to work so they can get a food to their table. Thanks for that support. You did a great job. And I was afraid many times to the COVID, but we made it to distribute those funds to them so they're able to feed their families. So for that being said, we invited all to gathering at the Kaverian Association and trying, because as Eve said, not many of them was able to get the funding through the government, doing like they not registered with the cities, they have some kind of issue, they don't know, where to go to get those findings. Then we've been educating them right now. We have on board like 130 some, businesses, small businesses, different, like in the city. where, like, we have a Canadian, Haitians, American, you saw all the transparency, then it's working great, we are happy. Then I want to say thank you all to invite us over something we're looking for. Then, to be here in Brockton, if there's anything we can do with the city, and we'd be happy to do it. So thank you all for inviting us over and have us tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Councilor Teixeira, followed by, I believe, Councilor Minichella.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Oh, I'm sorry, were you?
Oh, no, I'm done. If we are, ready to answer some question, if you have.
He's ready for the question. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not going to call you the president because I know you don't like the president. I'll call you the chairman. Question, why now?
Actually, why now, we have this association?
Yes.
All right. So, personally, if I think, for myself, I'm in the advertising business. What, we do, our company, we produce educational TV show, public service announcement, mostly for the state, for non-profit organization. Starting March 2020, we lost basically, I would say, 98% of our advertising. People don't do business, they cannot, advertise. Even though I've been living in Brockton for 33 years, I will say I just do my job, work first in Brockton for maybe 10 years for Brockton Public School, worked for the Catholic school system for 12 years. And I never really, part of any association. When I receive a call from Marlene Amédée, probably most of you know Marlene, she's like a community person, involved in everything. When you say Brockton community, she's there. When Marlene called you, say, Eve, you have to be part of this. I say, what is it? Okay, I'm inviting you to a meeting at the Diversion Association. I know Musa for a long time. But, he's doing his political thing, I'm doing my thing. So I was really impressed to be there with a lot of people I used to see on the street. But going to that meeting and seeing people focusing on what to do so they can be out of this crazy situation, financial crisis. And I've been there, I participated in probably 3 or 4 meetings. And time, come and to choose the board. I have to say, I'm the one who asked Marlene. I said, Marlene, you know what? I want to share this committee. I asked for it. It's not like, I'm someone, I get elected. No, I asked for it. Because based on my own experience, I think, it's better to be together than you stay in your corner and you do your little thing. And so far, I'm very happy about, what we have been doing. I will say every week I put some 10, 15 hours for this association. Building the website. I'm not like, a tech person, but, I know the basic. I'm able, to put together, the website.
All right, thank you. And going through 2 years of COVID, there was a lot of small business that really got hurt. Some of us made, some of us, we had to close, some of them had to close the door. But I think this is a great idea, especially for the minority community, to bring it together, make sure that we can support small business. It doesn't have to be minority, but in general, so we can support small business. This is a great idea, and this is an idea that I will support. Being a businessman, I've been in business for over 30 years in this city. And that's why I said, why now? How come we didn't do it 15 years ago? But never too late. This is what we need to do. We need to embrace one another. Doesn't matter where you came from. As long as we are in the city of champions, let's embrace one another and make sure that we keep moving. Because the small business, we are the engine. We are the one that drives So we need all the help that we can get from the city side, from the state side, and from the federal side to make sure that we inform the small business that they are struggling, that there's help there. It shouldn't be for certain, it should be for everyone. Thank you for your behavior for us.
Yeah, thank you, Councilor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Councilor Minicello, followed by Councilor Azak.
Good evening, Mr. Yves Cajuste. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you. 1990.
Ah, what a memory. What a memory. Yes, I was a young lawyer, just admitted to the bar in 1990, and I met you. I met
Leslie Jacques.
Leslie Jacques, our friend who's down in Florida.
Yep.
Roland Rodin, Pastor Rodney.
Still living in Brockton?
Yes, yes. I throw my support behind this endeavor. Yves, you've always been an inclusive person. Just because the organization, is labeled a minority business association does not mean that all are not welcome. Business is business. And good business with Brocktonians, no matter what, is business for all of us and makes everyone work together as a community. And that's how you've always been, and that's how you always be. We used to bring together many people with many different skill sets, and really what you did for the community over the years is educate people on insurance issues, legal issues, real estate issues, tax issues, educating people in the community about what services they need, good people to go to. As you remember, our good friend Mayor Bill Carpenter was a big part of all of that. Yep. When we were all advertising and working together on Linwood Street in the radio station.
WMSX.
Absolutely, and everyone would be translating. I would be speaking my language, of course, and you would be translating, and we'd be reaching tons of people and good people, and that's really what Brockton was about. That's the wonderful energy that's in Brockton. And so I throw my support. Once I saw you, I said, I throw my support behind this, because this will be successful, because you are a businessman for a long time, and you know how to get things done. And it's good to see you. You still look handsome as ever, dapper, look at you. Yep, well, a little lighter, but you're still right on point and right on mark. So I cannot endorse this more. This is going to be a wonderful endeavor for all of us, to get together and basically support everyone. Again, just because it's minority business, everyone's welcome. We've all business is business. We help each other, we educate, and the Brockton Public Schools has been doing this with financial literacy. The students need to know about financial literacy so that they come out and they can, learn and get into business, because a lot of people don't have that background in their families. Cedric Turner is doing a wonderful job over in the Brockton Public Schools for our students in that realm. And, I'm excited because I know that good people are involved, so that's great. So we'll work together.
All right. Thank you, Councilor.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Azak, followed by Councilor Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Once again, thank you for being here this evening. So I'm going to ask you, we have residents at home, small business owners, minorities, or any different types of businesses. How can they get involved with the association? How do they get in touch with you? What can they do to get to benefit from this association?
Yeah, actually, we do have a website, www.gbmba.org. It's easy for us to reach out to the Haitian, Cape Verdean, Latinx, maybe Portuguese community, because we have 3 paid staff who can do this the outreach, and also with Jamie helping in the African American community. There's one thing also we have to mention. When we say small business, minority small business, it's not ethnic minority or African American. We are focusing also on women, LGBTQ, and also those of, our friends who serve this country, the veterans who serve this country, who start their business, we focus also on the veterans. Not only like, ethnic minority or minority, also women are minority. So we are focused also on women. In terms of, how to promote this association, we apply for airtime on BCA. So if you are living in Brockton, that's the way, to have your word out, that's, BCA. So when you have a weekly show on BCA, they use the same show 3-4 times, a week. You cannot miss it. So we are planning to have a weekly, TV show on BCA in different languages: English, Cape Verdean, Haitian Creole, Spanish. We already have the people to host those shows. That's one way. And also do maybe have some ad in the enterprise. We have only one newspaper. So to have, your word out, you have to deal with the enterprise. We plan to do that also.
Very good. So how about an email? I'm figuring, do you have an email that say there's somebody that's interested, can they email you?
Oh, the email is info@gbmba.org. Info@gbmba.org. My phone number for people watching, 508-498-0200. 508-498-0200.
Perfect. I happened to stop by yesterday, and you have a great crowd. I think it's growing, so this is exciting, and this is good for our business community.
Yeah, and the goal is, by next year, by March, to have about, 300 members.
Wow, very good. Well, best wishes, and thank you again for being here. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yves, you guys have done some incredible work once we delineated what we wanted to do with this organization. I think you guys have taken that and run with it. I just want to inform the members of the council and the community at large that Jamie brought that up in terms of the association applying for this national grant that was done through the U.S. SBA. There were 750 plus applicants, and they awarded 51 grants. And we, Brockton, was one of the 51 nationwide grants that they awarded. As a matter of fact, somebody said, you guys were probably number 51. It's like, no, we're actually number 38 because they labeled the, so we were not in the forefront of it, but we were not on the back end either. And to be honest with you, it's something that actually put our city on the map in a sense, because when it got announced at the White House, when it was announced back in October of last year, it was something that gave me a great deal of pride, because here we are now playing with the big boys when it comes to these organizations and things like that. And we were the only, there's only 4 of these grantees throughout New England, and only 2 in Massachusetts. But most of those other grantees were actually community development corporations. As far as community-based organization, we were the only one, which gives us a sense that I think one of the things that we did in putting that grant together kind of exemplified what the city is all about, because our consortium, in the sense, the Greater Brockton Community Navigator Program, again, it's Greater Brockton, it's not just Brockton, it's Brockton and its surrounding communities. We have New Bedford, which is actually a part of this, Taunton, Randolph, and some of the, the Bridgewaters. So it's not just Brockton, but it's Brockton-led in the sense. And I just want to highlight a couple things that in the 9 months that we've been in existence, this consortium has actually helped small businesses. And I'm glad Councilor Menicello brought up the fact that we help everybody. Yes, we are focusing on those hard-to-reach businesses that were left behind by the traditional way of doing things, but we help English speakers, non-English speakers, you name it, because our goal is to make sure that we get the businesses in the right path to succeed, the small businesses. And people are taking notice. We actually had, back in February, the administrator of the U.S. SBA was supposed to come to Brockton to come and see us. I mean, this is a cabinet-level position within the Biden administration that was supposed to be coming. She didn't come because of a snowstorm. Remember, there was a cancellation, and that trip was canceled. I just received notice that her assistant, her associate administrator, Mark Madrid, will be coming to Brockton on the 24th of this month. So this is, again, a cabinet-level appointee that's actually coming to our city. It's coming to our city because of the work that's being done by people like yourselves and the fact that we are coming together to do this. Because one of the interesting things is that as part of that consortium, we've got the Metro South Chamber of Commerce, we've got the Brockton Redevelopment Authority in the Mayor's Office, the Haitian Community Partners, the Brockton Workers Alliance, who are mostly Latino-led organization, the Immigrant Assistance Center in New Bedford, and the association here in the city of Brockton. So when you look at it, it's like the major ethnic groups are involved in this. The major languages of this community are spoken by this consortium. And again, just to give you an example, in its 9 months of existence, we have helped small businesses in the greater Brockton apply for almost $7 million worth of grants and loans. And out of those totals, we are now over $2 million in terms of grants and loans that these businesses have gotten from this work. So, and this is in 9 months. And it goes to show you that given the opportunity and given the collaboration within the folks in this community, we're able to do great things. And that administrator is supposed to be coming possibly in the fall to visit the city as well. And when the person at that magnitude comes to the city, it should be a thing of pride for every single person, regardless what your background is, regardless what language you speak, because the city is being recognized at that particular level. So I just wanted to share that with my colleagues and the folks that are watching us at home. There was a lot of conversations that, oh, the association got a grant to provide help for businesses. Yes, it was help to hire some individuals in the community and help those individuals navigate this program. You know, it's a $900,000+ grant for 2 years, so it basically supports the consortium in the sense, plus hiring some of those key individuals that we have in the community. It was never meant to be small grants given to the community. As a matter of fact, that was one of my arguments, saying, you know, can we put some money in there to help some small businesses? And they said, well, you're not getting this. This thing is a pilot program that we're putting together to assist small businesses navigate the process so that they can actually become self-sustaining and guided in the sense, not for you to give them a handout. That's what the BRAs are for, or the chambers, or the Old Colony Planning Council, or city government to provide those direct funding. So that's what our organization is supposed to do to help these individuals navigate. And I think we're, based on everything that I hear from the federal level, I think we're doing the right thing. The creation of this organization is another thing that is speaking volumes everywhere. Because again, I've been in the city for 40+ years. We've never had an organization that worked with, you know, we've got the chamber, but the chamber itself saw that there was a vacuum. There's a need there to kind of connect the rest of the city itself into that particular setting, and that's exactly what we're doing, because if you look at the seminars that we're putting in play, the work that's being done, the chamber plays a part on that. The BRA plays a part on that to help these businesses navigate this whole process. So thank you for the work that you're doing. Let's keep it going and help the community get better on the daily basis. And God knows where we end up, but it's been fun so far. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
If I may add one more thing, we start discussing between ourselves the idea of, you know, doing collective investment. Think about, 300 members. You form a corporation to invest together, 5,000 each time 200, members. But to do this type of, investment, probably we will need some support coming from the city. We need some support from maybe some university, because we're talking about, big money. and we are not organized enough, to do this type of investment. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Nicastro, followed by Councilor Tavares.
Good evening, sir. It's wonderful to hear about between you and Councilor Rodriguez. I'm sure great work is being done. And this is the question that I had. According to the website of the Small Business Administration, the federal organization, this was a $1 million grant to the Cape Verdean Association. Is it fair to say that the members of your association are the small businesses who are benefiting from the grant, either from counseling and expertise that is being shared with them, or, I don't know, some funding for their businesses as well? Is that how you're benefiting from this grant?
Actually, not only we receive first this technical assistance, from BRA, from Brockton Neighborhood Networks, or other, players right here in the city of Brockton. Actually, we have, 3 staff members, even though they are not working full-time, but they are the one, who go on the street and, to talk, to business owners, and, so they can become, members. As I mentioned, the only, concern we have, so far, we really appreciate, this type of technical assistance, because without technical assistance, 10 years from now, some business, basically, they won't be able to keep up with digital, transformation. People will come to your store, and if you don't know anything about your computer, your system is not set up to accept this type of credit card and so on, people won't visit you. So that's why, we are discussing with, business, and also discussing with Moises, how do we help those businesses who cannot receive this value of technical assistance? I know some, I would say, successful business owner in the city. When you approach them and you think, okay, we have this association, this is what we do, this is the advantages of being a member. Most of the time their question, we don't speak, we don't master, the language. Do you have translation? And when you say translation, talking about, computer, if you try to translate, let's say, you say to someone, oh, go to file, and you click save as, or you are switching between, drive and so on. That's translation. But if they don't understand the concept of computing, you get lost. So we have to go deeper. And I know it's not easy, but we have to go where people, they are at.
Where they are.
So basically, that, I think, that's one of the most challenging problems we are facing. And most of those businesses, basically, they are left out. Applying for PPE is not, some business, they were not qualified. Probably they did not feel maybe their income tax properly, they don't have a CPA. But they have been in business, for sometimes 20, 25 years. When you go to them, you try to lecture them. You have, to have a CPA, you have to do this, you have to use Excel, to prepare your file. No. They won't listen to you. They say, I'm successful. I'm able to send my kids to college. And now you are coming in to tell me, I don't know how to do business. It's really, really, really difficult. But I think, by just a lot of patience, sometimes you go do business with them, you develop some time of, relationship with them, and we should be able, to have, more of those business to come on board.
Well, you're also trying to persuade them that they need to spend some money, right? Between the cost of the CPA, the cost of the technical consultant. And that's not, even though you can say to them, this is how you grow your business, they're not convinced.
Yeah.
You know, they've been making it on their own to this
I know,
point.
and they are very successful. Probably, a lot of business, in Brockton, they do their thing, their way, and they are successful. That's the key thing.
Well, this has been wonderfully informative, and I'm grateful to you and all of your officers for coming this evening.
Thank you, Councilor.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Tavares.
Yes. Good night. Thank you so much for being here today. Actually, I think this is a wonderful, you guys been doing it. Basically, my understanding, basically a social care word is develop a small business unit, right? I don't know if I'm right or wrong. And to provide and assist a small business, like with entrepreneur, help with, writing grants and find, loan. I know you guys going through ACAB, which is a lot of requirement, a lot of small business didn't know. And then especially for the pandemic, a lot of small business get to the struggle. And then I'm so appreciative because they're into a social care word, and then a lot of them get a little rented. And you guys been doing a wonderful job, and assisted them A to Z kind of basically, because I know most of the people going through you guys does not meet qualification. That's why you guys created kind of those education. I didn't get time to go over, but I'm always following all the process, which is so important, because a lot of people didn't even know. They just think have a little piece of paper, you get the grant. And then get to the point, and then every time the grant coming in, nobody, basically most of the people, I can tell you 75% did not qualify because they don't know the requirement. I think you guys been doing wonderful, going through all this education, and to kind of entrepreneur with all the small business. I'm very proud, and of course I'm into supports as well.
Yeah. Thank you, Councilor.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilors, is there anyone else?
Motion to recommend favorably back to the full city council.
Second.
Motion's been properly made and seconded. I want to take an opportunity real quickly to thank you guys for coming. I think it is an important message, an important thing to do. I also, because they're not going to do it themselves, I want to call attention to the fact that 8 of the 11 members of this city council are small business owners themselves. So we've got a good group, and the growing and improving and protecting our businesses is something I think that this council carries with it. So
thank you very much for the time.
Thank you. Councilors, the motion has been properly made and seconded. All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Item number 11, resolve to have representatives of Moms Demand Action Organization appear before the Brockton City Council to help bring awareness to their campaign to educate the public on gun safety. Invited, Kathleen Berry.
Good evening.
Mr. Chairman.
Councilor Azak.
Good evening. So I would like to personally thank Kathleen and her team for being here tonight, and they are the last resolved, but I have to tell you, I was here in June when they had an event outside, which was Wear Orange, and they'll tell you a little bit more about it, but I just want to thank them. I was very impressed by them. As a mom, when we talk about guns, everybody always says, oh, the Second Amendment comes up, but what I was impressed was that Kathleen said this isn't about taking away guns, it's about being against gun violence, and that's what it comes down to, and it's all about education, and that's why these ladies are here tonight. So on that June day, I did bring everybody a t-shirt. It said, I handed them out to you, just so you know a little bit about a little bit about their organization. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Shirley, and thank you to the Brockton City Council for allowing us to come and be here this evening. I'm looking forward to familiarizing you a little bit with Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America, which is a part of Everytown for Gun Safety, the nation's largest nonpartisan grassroots gun violence prevention organization. I'm Kathleen Berry. I'm an 8-year volunteer with the Massachusetts State Chapter, and currently I lead our state public education team. I also would like to introduce and thank my colleagues, my fellow volunteers, Paula St. James and Julia Sheehan, who came this evening to join me today in solidarity, but also they're going to share a few words later on. It will be a true challenge for us to tell you about the breadth of what we do in this organization in the 10 minutes of allotted time, but we will try to do our best. I did put handouts on your table that you can take along and read at your leisure. Hopefully that will give you a little more insight. The most important thing for you to know is that we are not anti-gun. In fact, we respect responsible gun ownership, and we wish to promote public safety. And the two can go hand in hand, they should. What we are against is the gun violence in this country that takes over 40,000 lives per year and injures over 100,000 more. And these include suicides, homicides, unintentional shootings, mass and school shootings, and other causes of firearm death and injury. We are a nationwide group of volunteers from all backgrounds, including women, men, students, gun owners, non-gun owners, survivors. In short, we are concerned people who have committed to working together strategically to build a culture of gun safety and keep guns away from dangerous people. There are over 8 million of us now nationwide. Our intentions are grounded in the devastation and trauma caused to survivors and families who have endured the loss of loved ones. We work together to make sure that no one else has to go through the pain that now becomes a part of their lives. We recognize that gun violence disproportionately affects women and people of color. In everything we do, we welcome diversity and we strive for equity and inclusion, because all voices matter, just as every life matters. Founded by one woman, Shannon Watts, the day after the Sandy Hook murders in 2012, our organization might best be known for the legislative advocacy that we do at the federal and state levels. I just want to start there, and then I'm going to come down to the more local level. Here are some examples. We advocate with politicians and policymakers to enact evidence-based, life-saving laws. This summer, we drove over 1 million calls and messages to the US Senate to tell them to enact the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, the first major gun safety legislation at the federal level in a generation. Also, we advocated both federally and with our Massachusetts state legislators to address the fastest growing gun safety problem in the country, and that is ghost guns. Federal regulation was enacted in April of 2022 with the help of over 100,000 comments provided to the ATF by our members over the course of 90 days. At this juncture, I would like to invite my friend Paula to explain to you one way in which we mobilize our nationwide supporters to connect with our legislators. Paula?
Hi, I'm Paula St. James, and I'm very happy to be with you this evening. And I wanted to talk a little bit about our work both locally and nationally on the legislation and the election side. We have something wonderful called the Gun Sense Action Network that allows us, I call it our magic tool, that allows us to reach voters in other states. As you know, Massachusetts has fairly strong gun laws, although there is a bit more to do. Right now, we're working with the legislature on checking the language of our gun licensing laws in Massachusetts to make sure that they pass muster, given the recent Supreme Court decision. And we're also working with them on ghost gun legislation, which hasn't passed yet, but we're keeping on advocating, and we're hoping soon. But with the Gun Sense Action Network, we can call across the country to other voters in other states that don't have as good gun laws as we do. And Shannon Watts, who was our founder and leader, has said that the gun laws in your state are only as good as the states that surround you. And we have a problem in Massachusetts that a lot of states face, in that guns come in and are trafficked from other states. The most recent data available from the Boston police said that over 75% of the illegal guns that they confiscated came from outside of Massachusetts, and they call it the Steel Highway. The main states that guns come to Massachusetts from is Maine, New Hampshire, Florida, Georgia, and Virginia. So we need to reach out to those states to see if we can get gun sense candidates who believe in this type of restrictions that we have in Massachusetts in those states. And then we also need to have a federal law. And that's one thing that we're working on very hard, is to get federal laws consistent across the country. And right now we're working on the midterms. We're big into the midterms, and we're calling Democratic primary voters to advocate for gun sense candidates all across the country. Last week we were calling for a woman who is running for state senator in Brooklyn. So, and I haven't got the word on who we're going to call this week. The national team sets up the calls, and there are 4 open windows every week, and every Sunday we have what we call Massachusetts Call Together Sundays. And our motto is, we make calls to save lives. And we meet on Zoom and discuss our calling assignment for the week, what state, what candidate, or what legislation, and background information on it. And then we call and either try to get voters to call their representatives, and we have the technology that they can connect them directly to the senator or representative, or we ask them to support a gun sense candidate. And it's been highly effective. Shannon Watts, again, I'm quoting Shannon again, she used to say that gun violence prevention was the third rail of politics, but now it's extremely accepted, and people are working together so that we can have safer communities in Brockton, throughout the state and the country.
There's so much to tell you. We have to sort of control ourselves with all the stuff that we have to tell you. But thank you, Paula. In late 2021, we advocated strongly with the Massachusetts legislators for the allocation of $65 million of federal dollars from the American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA, to fund gun violence prevention and intervention programs across our state. These funds go to local communities for, as I said, violence intervention, prevention, expansion of reentry programs, youth employment programs, municipal grants focused on strengthening mental health for people in crisis, and more. Most recently, our advocacy came to fruition when our Massachusetts legislature approved a state budget which includes a historic $94 million in gun violence prevention funding. And they also passed legislation that begins to address the Supreme Court's dangerous decision in New York, which has now endangered a portion of our concealed carry permitting process that has kept us safe for decades. Aside of legislative advocacy, another important focus of ours is more local. We know that not all gun violence can be solved by passing laws. In fact, it often takes too long for laws to arrive, laws that we need. But we know that local communities can affect change on their own through the daily work of on-the-ground organizations that address the seeds of gun violence. I'm thinking here about groups that work in suicide or domestic violence prevention, survivor and bereavement support, youth mentoring and engagement, street violence intervention, faith-based family resource and mental health programs, and more. And add to these the work of the Brockton law enforcement, the district attorney, and the Brockton city government. These programs, all taken together, make a huge impact in the life of reducing violence in the life of the community and building community pride. Brockton does this so well. I believe that the idea of the whole is greater than the sum of its parts very much applies in Brockton. Moms Demand Action sees our role as supporting and magnifying the work of these local community organizations and partners with volunteer, in-kind, or economic support. This part of our work is what led me and others, together with the support of the Brockton Gun Violence Prevention Coalition and the Mayor's Office, to organize this year's Wear Orange Brockton event in early June. Mayor Sullivan made a proclamation declaring June 3rd National Gun Violence Awareness Day in Brockton, and he appealed to everyone to have the frank conversations and to do the collective work necessary to address gun violence throughout the year. This event brought together Brockton and area community organizations with resource tables at City Hall Plaza to raise the public's awareness about the work that they do and encourage the public support. It was at that event, as you know, that I met Shirley, and she's the reason why we are here today. So again, thank you very much, Shirley. One final aspect of our local work, and perhaps a sort of an ask to you for some input, is that I'd like to highlight our effort to educate the public, both gun owners and non-gun owners, about the life-saving effects of secure firearms storage, and what all adults can do to help increase the safety of our children. The materials that we handed you earlier this evening provide insight about our Be Smart educational program, which is endorsed by the National PTA. We need to raise awareness about it in Brockton at an impactful level. What can the city and its various institutions do to encourage gun owners to secure, not just hide, firearms in their homes and vehicles, to encourage everyone to join over 19 million parents in asking about the presence of unsecured firearms in other homes and vehicles before sending their children to play or ride, and to remind everyone to spread the Be Smart message among relatives and friends. And at this point, I would like to ask my friend Julia to tell you why she joined Moms Demand Action and something about her advocacy work for secure firearm storage. Julia.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Julia Sheehan. I am a high school teacher and a mother of 3 young boys, aged 7 to 11. I, like many others, chose to join Moms Demand Action after the shooting in Parkland. For me, it was the final straw after watching school shootings and gun violence intensify in our nation for years. Now I watch students learn how to decide whether they evacuate, cower in a corner, or throw random school supplies at a potential active shooter in our building. I understand why in these times that is necessary, but these are not the lessons. These are not the skills I want to be teaching my students. These are not the things that I want my own boys concerned with as they navigate school. It doesn't need to be this way, and that is why I joined Moms Demand Action, and that is why I am very proud to work with the Be Smart program, where we are asking gun owners to think about securing their weapons properly, and also why I like to work with Moms Demand Action, try to influence legislation at all levels of government in hopes of decreasing the prevalence of gun violence in our nation. Thank you.
So gun violence is a horrible reality that devastates lives and costs Massachusetts $3.5 billion each year. I'm sure I speak for all three of us when I say that I gain hope and purpose when I can turn my fear and worry about this epidemic and my empathy for gun violence survivors into action, working within my organization and also along with other gun violence prevention organizations for a safer world. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. Thank you. Counselors, any questions? Counselor Azak.
Thank you. So thank you again, Kathleen, and thank you all of you for being here again tonight. So Be Smart is very educational. I know if people at home, how can they learn a little bit more about properly storing their firearms? I think you have a website, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to tell them?
The website besmartforkids.org has a lot of resources there. And there is something there about methods of secure storage. However, we also want to remind people that some of the best credible authorities on this topic are law enforcement, veterans, gun shops, Ask the question, what are the ways to store my firearms, okay? What we talk about in Be Smart, and we make presentations, anywhere from a 35-minute presentation to an hour and a half, depending on what is included. We make those presentations to community groups, to schools. We talk about general principles. One, of course, is securing the weapons, right? But also modeling responsible behavior. One example, toy guns, real guns. Kids have a hard time sometimes telling the difference, right? So thinking about the kind of toy guns that might be in use that could confuse children. The very important aspect of SMART is the A, ask. This is for everyone, non-gun owners, many who don't realize that there might be guns in other homes where their children play that are just in a nightstand or under a mattress. We hear too many of stories like this. So we teach people how to ask. We do a little role-playing, a group exercise, so that people are less hesitant to ask. As I said earlier, over 19 million parents are asking. And then the R, recognizing the role of guns in suicide. And finally, tell your peers about this message. It's a very simple message. But it generates great discussion, and it's really about normalizing the conversation around gun safety.
Thank you again. Like I said, I was impressed when I saw I hadn't really heard about the organization before you were here in June. So I was really impressed. I was impressed by the collaboration you have with some other organizations in the city. I mean, a lot of organizations were well represented here at City Hall that you work with, especially I know the police department had a huge presence here. Yep. When you were here. One thing I'm going to ask you before I open it up to my colleagues, why orange? I like the story of why orange.
Okay. Yes, orange was chosen as the color for gun violence prevention when a young lady named Hadaya Pendleton from Chicago was caught in crossfires of gangs in Chicago 2 weeks after she marched in President Obama's inauguration parade. And so when she died, her friends chose the color orange because it's the color that hunters wear in the woods to protect themselves. I want to be seen. Well, the public wants to be seen. We don't want to be caught in the crossfire between gangs, etc. So that's how orange became the color of the movement.
Thank you again. Thank you very much, ladies. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Farwell, followed by Counselor
every day I'm troubled by the fact that somewhere in this country, a gun is picked up, and it could be a child kills his brother or someone else is hurt, and because it doesn't happen here every day, I think sometimes people don't think about that, but it's really important. I mean, I think I just read recently where a father accidentally killed his son. I think that was on the internet today. So that's the first thing that I would want to say is that it seems abstract because we don't read about it in the local newspaper, but it's very real. The other thing that's always bothered me, and I know perhaps you folks are working on it, but the toy guns are so realistic.
Yes.
They look so much like a real gun that kids can get confused. And I don't know what the answer to that is. I mean, the toy makers can do what they want to do, but to me, that's really troubling. And, you know, a kid sees something that's plastic and plays with it, but then they see the same thing and they don't realize, wait a minute, this is different. This is heavier, this is loaded. And so, you know, you have your work cut out for you, but it's really important work.
Thank you.
I
Yes.
know, I read every day where this happens, and I can't think of anything worse than having one child kill his brother or having a father accidentally shoot a son or a daughter. And so thank you very much for being here. I know you had to wait, but it's a really important message. It's a very important message, gun safety. Everyone thinks it's important on the firing range. It's more important where the guns are stored and kept. On the firing range, everyone's very focused. But then when we get into a house or a business or something, somehow that is discarded. And again, so sad, so sad. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Minichiello.
Good evening. Thank you for for the good work that you perform. I like the message, you know, responsible gun ownership. As we all know, children are very curious little people, and if there's a weapon in the house and the parent is out of the house and a child knows where the key is or perhaps somehow knows where the combination is, and they have a friend over or friends over, and they think they just want to show them something that's going to excite them, and that's when bad things happen, very bad things. So responsible gun ownership is so important, and I can't agree more with what Councilor Farwell said in terms of, you know, on the range, people are certainly very aware of what's going on, but it's at home, it's at home in the casual setting where bad things can happen to very innocent people. Have you talked to anyone in our school system about programs or resources that you might be able to provide? And because we certainly can make an introduction, you know, incorporating something like this, you know, into our health and wellness programs. You know, that I think getting materials presented to children at the youngest of ages is when we really need to start. So,
yes.
You know, it's a great message, but what can we do to help you in terms of?
Thank you for that, yes. Actually, exactly that. That is the next step that I'd like to take in Brockton, is to connect with the school district. I don't have the necessary contacts. I live in Rainham. We have many members in Brockton.
We won't hold that against you. You can come join our community in Brockton.
Well, so great. I spend a lot of time in Brockton, by the way, and I love Brockton. Honestly, it's the pride that I felt. Don't you think, Shirley, at that Wear Orange event? People are proud of the city. But going back to what you said, we are currently working with about 15 school districts in our Commonwealth to introduce Be Smart education in the schools. We've actually experienced that the Plymouth Public School District and the Newburyport District have both passed resolutions so far to enact secure storage notification policy for parents, basically letting people know about the critical life-saving effects of secure firearm storage and the fact that we have a Massachusetts safe storage law. And they have enacted these resolutions. That's something the school committee does. And, you know, I would love to get to a point similar to that in Brockton, perhaps starting just with the Be Smart education and seeing how it sits with people and familiarizing people with it, and then trying to make it be a framework that they would do every year, and not just the one time that they invited us for a presentation. The Plymouth School District created a wonderful website about keeping children safe, focusing on secure storage. And in 1 year, they did that. They invited us to present at their teacher development, at staff development days. They invited us to speak to their Wellness and Safety Committee, which consists of over 100 members from the community. And they put together the very first Health and Wellness Safety Fair just last April that invited groups, ours and others, from all over Plymouth that have to do with aspects of safety, whether it was fire safety or drugs, or, a lot of other family resource groups. It was a wonderful event, and we were invited to that. So again, we were able to spread our message. So they have done a lot to implement their resolution, and I see so much potential to keep it in front of people's minds, and it's a simple thing. It doesn't cost anything to make people aware. It doesn't create extra work for teachers, because it's not that the teachers are teaching something to the kids. This is about adult behaviors, teaching adults. It's proactive, it's evidence-based, it's one of the many solutions to help prevent gun violence. It's not going to solve everything, by no means, but it goes at least some way to getting to a better place that doesn't need a law, So I would very much like to gain entry to make a connection with the school community.
So just through you, Mr. Chairman, to my colleague, I had mentioned to Kathleen in June when school had already been out, but I do know the vice chair of the school committee. I did mention to her, so we were hoping in September. I had explained the process of hearing of visitors, but then taking a step further and meeting with the superintendent. But so that's something once school gets going that they could do. So I did mention it to school committee member Joyce Azak, and she said, we'll start with the hearing of visitors and then move it into, talk to the superintendent. But thank you.
Yeah,
thank you for your comment.
It makes a lot of sense. What makes sense is usually what's reasonable.
You want to say something?
Did I still have the floor? Or?
I don't know who still had the floor.
Yeah.
I just,
Oh, I'm sorry.
I just gave information, that's all.
He still has the floor.
Thank you. What makes sense is common sense.
Yes.
Laws, you can have 1,000 laws in the books. If the courts don't enforce them, and I've seen them firsthand, some of the gun laws, they don't enforce. They'll plead down a case, and a person should really be off the street and because of what they've done, and that person won't be committing a crime with the gun. But if the courts don't enforce the laws in the books, then bad things can happen. But, common sense is really what prevents bad things from happening. So I thank you for coming, and we certainly will support what makes sense in this community.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Sorry about that. Councilor Jazewski.
Yes, Mr. President.
Again, yeah.
Just because my name ends with an O, we're not all the same. Councilor Jazewski, and myself,
Those Italians.
Boy, I'll tell you.
It's like, oh, the other Italian guy.
Please, yeah.
Well, I wanted to thank you guys for being here, for the work that you're doing, and more of a comment, I guess, on the topic than anything else. But I'm glad that you're doing work at the federal level, because one of the things that kind of drives me a little nuts when these national conversations come up is, you get people talking about my Second Amendment right, what doesn't seem to be a part of the conversation is the fact that, yeah, and with that comes some serious responsibilities.
Yes.
And that part of the conversation seems to be missing at the national level, or maybe I'm just not hearing that said, but, it's a process to get your license in Massachusetts, and it should be.
Yes.
Because it's such a serious matter. And I wish some of these other states that don't have I just don't understand how they cannot pass similar laws to what we have here, given the seriousness of the topic. But, so I really respect the work you guys are doing and trying to make that change. You know, the other comment that was made, and I apologize, I'm drawing a blank on your colleague's name that mentioned it, but.
Paula?
No.
Julia.
Julia. You know, Mr. Minicello and I just a year ago were still on the school committee, and one of the things that in our time there we participated in, and the teachers and students, is the ALICE training. You know, when that got brought up earlier, it was one of those things like, geez, when I was a kid, we didn't do that in school. That wasn't even a conversation. You know, so it just is a really sad sign of the times, but.
We had fire drills, as you recall.
What's that?
We had fire drills, that was it.
That was it, you're right.
Fire drill.
You're right. And so it's unfortunate that that is a part of, you know, our children's lives in schools, and I have a second grader myself, or soon to be second grader. And, you know, like I said, it's just an unfortunate sign of the times, but maybe we can make some progress on these things and turn that around. So I really appreciate what you guys are doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. I didn't know you were on the school committee.
Oh, God.
Counselors, anybody else? Is there a motion?
Motion to recommend favorably back to the full city council.
Second.
Motion has been properly made and seconded to recommend this fully back to the full city council. All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you for coming in. Thank you for hanging with us to the end of the night.
Thank you. We have one more agenda item. Agenda item 1, appointment of Ruth Moore of 1380 Main Street, Brockton, Mass. 02301 to the Women's Commission for a 3-year term ending July 2025. We invite Ruth Moore.
Is Ms. Moore here? No. Counselors, Ms. Moore is not here. Counselor Nicastro?
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to postpone this to the next FinCom meeting.
Second.
Motion has been properly made and seconded to postpone this to the next FinCom meeting. All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, counselors. Are there any moments of counselors' recognition? Counselor Azak.
Thank you. Last week here at City Hall, we had 2 longtime city employees who retired. And because we're in summer session, you know, we didn't get a chance to possibly celebrate them, but so I just want to wish them the best in their retirement. Pam Gurley from the Planning Department, after 30 years in the Planning Department, decided to retire, and Christine Brophy from the Building Department after 18 years. So, you know, I wish them all the best, but I hope they'll be back consulting. So hopefully they won't be too far from City Hall. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Counselor. Counselor D'Agostino, followed by Counselor Nicastro.
Thank you. I just wanted to remind everybody about the upcoming First Responder Community Jamboree, which was inspired by National Night Out 2022. It's an annual community building campaign, promotes police community partnerships and neighborhood camaraderie. We strive to make our neighborhoods safer, a more caring place to live. Jamboree seeks to enhance the relationship between neighbors, public service agencies, while bringing back a true sense of community. This event will be at the Brockton Fairgrounds this Saturday, August 20th, with a rain date of Sunday instead. So hopefully we have a nice Saturday. And it runs from 11 to 3 o'clock at the fairgrounds. The activities will be face painting stations, arts and crafts, dunk tanks, balloon station, cotton candy, various other, you know, food, entertainment, an inflatable obstacle course, and the Brockton Police Department, Mass State Police, Plymouth County District Attorney, Plymouth County Sheriff's Department, Brewster Ambulance, Brockton Hospital, Good Samaritan Hospital, Brockton Neighborhood Health Center, and Boys and Girls Club have sponsored this event. And also, I did want to mention, and there are 2 police officers who are really working hard to make this happen, and I am drawing a blank on one of their names, so I apologize to the officer who I'm leaving out. but I wanted to thank Officer Anderson as well, specifically for the work that she's been doing. We've been in touch, and I know her, she has a partner working with her on this, and so I do apologize for the other officer who's, like I said, name I'm missing. But for everybody, if you're around on Saturday, please go to the fairgrounds between 11 and 3 this coming Saturday. It sounds like it's going to be a great event and a lot of fun for the community. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Nicastro.
Thank you. Just a reminder, tomorrow night at 6 p.m. in these council chambers, the Standing Committee on Public Safety will be meeting. All are invited, and just a reminder to my colleagues to join us. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. I would like to say real quick, just a reminder that there will be a Ward 6 ward meeting on Thursday at 6:30, from 6:30 to 8 p.m. We will have CFO Troy Clarkson and the Chief Budget Officer for the school department, Aldo Petronio. They're going to come and break down the budget for folks. Tell them, you know, you have a lot of people, I know, you know, colleagues, I'm sure you can attest, folks say, well, you know, I pay my taxes, but what does that even do? This will tell you exactly where they go. So this will break it down. So that'll be what we're up to, 6:30 to 8 on Thursday at the Ashfield Middle School. Counselor Farwell, and then I believe you have another one, Counselor Azak.
Actually, I think I know what Counselor
Yes, I
Azak is
forgot.
going to do, and I just wanted to say, Madam Chair, I still have that schedule conflict, so I can't join you tomorrow night, but I know you're going to announce the meeting.
Yes. So I forgot to mention that tomorrow evening, Tuesday, August 16th, 6:30 p.m., we have an ordinance meeting here in council chambers. And we will most likely postpone it. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other counselors? Seeing no other business before us, we are adjourned.